And before we get going, here's a word about our sponsors. SDHQ Motorsports is a powerhouse 30,000 square foot facility with 45 family members reporting for duty. This single owner, single location business is based out of Gilbert, Arizona. It can handle anything from a hot rod, daily driver, pre-runner, race vehicle, half-track or Kugelwagen, or just about any other project you need help with. Their skilled staff with hundreds of years of combined experience eats, sleeps, and breathes performance. So go check them out at sdhqmotorsports.com or check them out on Insta at sdhqmotorsports. The We Happy Few 506 podcast is brought to you in partnership with the Gettysburg Museum of History, home of the Major Dick Winters collection and the largest assortment of authentic Band of Brothers artifacts in the world. Visit the free museum at 219 Baltimore Street in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, or at www.gettysburgmuseumofhistory.com, and on the YouTube channel, The History Underground, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Well, hello, and welcome along to another We Happy Few 506 podcast, The Nearly Men. Doug Allen is on his way. He's inbound, so he's just going to jump on at one point with his Cockney glee and his upbeat personality. We'll be jumping on. I'm here with Matt Mabe from the 100th Bomb Group. How are you, Matty? I know I told you to shut up, but you have to say hello now.
I'm great. Hope you guys are well.
All right, keep it down. And then also we've got Adam Long from Masters of the Air fame. How are you, Adam?
I'm very well, thank you, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Good. Yeah. You probably don't have visuals if you're listening. This might go on YouTube. I'm not sure. Depends how much swearing we do. But Adam Long is a dead ringer for a young Shane Taylor. I actually thought it was a young Shane Taylor. Then I realized he wasn't wearing an infinity scarf and a pair of Harry Potter glasses, so it definitely wasn't him. I've got quite... So I usually do these podcasts late at night on a Sunday in England, but I've moved to America now.
Yeah, what time is that? It's morning, right?
It's morning. Yes, I'm going somewhere with this, Adam. So 3:00 in the afternoon on a Sunday is not good for me because I've got a bunch of kids. So I have to be doing stuff. So I've had to get up what was quite early to prep this podcast. Oh. I have a legitimate question. Can you be sheveled?
Sheveled?
Sheveled.
What does that mean?
Well, exactly. I don't know because I'm looking at myself thinking, man, you look disheveled. And then I'm wondering whether you can be. I don't want to sound like a radio
I see where
DJ.
you're going. I see where you're going. Can you
don't
be
sound like one of those knobhead Radio 2 DJs. Here's a question for you. Yeah. Why do I talk like this? And can you be sheveled? And then they stretch it out for the whole day. That's
yeah. And they ring in.
Yeah, people ring in. Yeah. Don from Carlisle is sheveled or something. I have a question for you. Speaking of Carlisle and up that way, were you in a movie called Peterloo?
Yes. Yeah, I was, yeah.
That's a very fascinating story. And I think I watched it as well. I either watched it or the documentary. No, I think I watched the movie. That's really good, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, it's Mike Leigh, so like everyone did the Mike Leigh process, but I just got a call.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I can't remember what happened so you kind of go in, and before you go in to meet Mike, he tells you to pick 3 people from your life and think of like characteristics about those people. And then when you go into the room, you have a quick discussion. And then he's like, okay, I want you to just go about your business like I'm not here. It's that kind of drama school moment of private in public is what he's after, is just to go about your day. He sort of just sits in the corner and watches. So I did that whole process and thought, well, it went really well. Mike seemed to like it. I left, then didn't hear anything, and all my mates started getting cast, and the project was like well into filming. And then I got a random call from Nina Gold's office, and they said, listen, Mike just wants someone practical to operate this original printing press machine from the 1800s. Is that something that you're interested in? I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, that sounds fun. So I had 2 days rehearsal with this guy who still maintains these printing press machines. And then I just used the machine and printed newspapers for 3 days in the background, just printing papers.
Sounds very Mike Leigh. As far as I can remember, the story is to do with a massacre in Petersfield. Is that correct?
It's in Manchester, St. Peter's Square, I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
It's where the library is now. It's like a tram station.
Okay. Yeah. And so they called it Peterloo after kind of Waterloo because there was this massacre. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, that's right.
Not too bad. I got a funny Mike Leigh story, actually. There's an actor I worked with, a fellow by the name of Mel Rado. and he told a hilarious
What?
Mike Lee story. Yeah, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Bond villain.
Yeah.
He told your story exactly, but he just went off on the deep end. Like, so he was a character. I don't know what the character was, but Mike Lee said to him, I want to meet this guy. I want to meet him. So he goes out of the room, and Mel Rado, who is a mercurial character, he's like, I don't know why, but I took all my clothes off. And then I looked around the room and I thought, I don't like any of the paintings or the pictures in this room. So he took them all down. And then he said, I don't know why, but I set fire to them. So Mike Lee comes back into the room and there's a naked dude in the middle of the room on the floor with a bunch of burning paintings. And he just got like shoved out of the room. Like, okay, very good. Thank you very much. See you again. Hey, Dougie, how you doing?
A lot more chilled than that. I think I just sat by the window and smoked a cigarette and like.
Did you?
Yeah, pretty much. He was like, you can do anything, read the newspaper, you want to smoke. So I just sort of smoked a cigarette by the window.
Nice. And then he said, you know what you'd be good at? Operating a medieval printing press.
There you go. That was it.
Yeah, very good. Hey, Dougie, how you doing, man? Dougie
Allen, very good. Welcome, Adam. Welcome, Matt. How you doing?
Thank you very much.
Good. Where have you come in from?
Oh, I was just out at a meeting in Mitta, so I was just trying to get home quick. So I was a few minutes late. It's pissing down with rain here. What's the weather doing in England? Well, no, you're not in England. You're in America. I suppose it's sunny.
No, I'm in Virginia, where it is also pissing down with rain. Actually, Matt Mabe's nodding along. He's in the Snake and Lizard pub. He's been in there all night drinking. So anyway, we'll get serious. So as we know, Adam Long is in Masters of the Air. Congratulations on Masters of the Air, by the way.
Yeah, congratulations.
It is a roaring success. Everybody's talking about it. How does it feel now it's over? Because it's not over. Sorry, I'll interrupt my question for you, because what everybody will do now, and what I'm hearing, is that everyone's finished it, they're absorbing it, and now they're just going to start binge watching it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm going to do. It sort of killed me waiting week by week, because it feels like those episodes were over so quickly. Like, as soon as you watch them, it just feels like they were over in a flash. I know they were like 45 minutes, but it felt so quick. So I'm going to, me and all my friends have decided that we're just going to binge the whole thing and just watch the whole thing straight through again. So I'm part of that team.
Is these friends from the show, or are these friends that you've brought round to show how famous you are?
Yeah, no, I bring everyone in, I lock the door, no one's allowed to leave. They'll just watch sort of back to back until I feel satisfied that they think I'm amazing. That's the point.
Right. Okay.
That's what Matt does. Before he comes on the podcast, we'll have to go, you're brilliant, Matt, you're brilliant. You have no idea what he's like. He's such a diva.
No, I always describe myself as, have you seen Bridget Jones's Diary?
Yeah.
She's got those friends, and there's one that was a pop star in the 80s, had one hit and then got laid off it for the rest of his life. That's kind of how I describe myself.
Yeah. You know what, Matt? I actually have a deep cut here, yeah? So I'm a big fan of Band of Brothers. I was obsessed with it. I watched it. I lost count of how many times I've watched it. But I remember at the time when I first watched it, with you specifically, and being like, oh my God, where do I know this guy from? Renford Rejects.
Yes, sir. There you go. Doug doesn't believe it was a real show, but it was.
It was. It was my favorite show when I was a kid.
I mean, I've told this story a million times. So I'll tell the truncated story of this. During the episode 1, the guy that directed episode wrong, Phil Allen Robinson, who directed Field of Dreams and all this, he was married to an English lady, and his obviously had an English son at school in England. And on the first day of shooting, we're all in this huge aircraft hangar, and the doors open and Phil Robinson comes in, and there's just everybody in there, Schwimmer and Mark Warren and Michael Cudlitz and all these guys, and this little kid walks in who's with him and just goes, "That's the guy from Renford Rejects." And I swear to goodness, for the whole of that episode, all I had to do was bounce a ball on my head and look after his kid. That's it. That's the task I got. Like performing Seal.
Yeah.
That was it. I didn't know he had a football. I'm going to backtrack. I'm going to get onto Masters of the Air. I am, and all into it, and all into. I want to know all about the man you played and all the rest of it. But can I just ask? I'm going back on your IMDb. Spike Island.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What can you tell me about that? Because I'm a massive Stone Roses fan, like huge Stone Roses fan, even to this day. And that is a crazy story. The whole Spike Island thing was nuts.
Yeah. what do you want to know? Like, how did I get the job? How did it come about?
Yes, and how much? I would love to know how much involvement the actual Stone Roses had.
So it started with, I think, I was at drama school at the time, and this lady came in to do an open casting. Her name's Jane Ripley. She did like Skins and Inbetweeners and all that sort of thing. So she came in, and the whole drama school turned up for this casting. Everyone's in this room, and she kind of just says, "Can you improvise that you're about to start a band?" So we're all in this little groups, and the musical theatre kids are giving it sort of the extreme, busting into song. And at the time in Manchester, like all my mates were in bands, so I was kind of a part of that thing. And I just remember thinking that it was a little bit stupid. I thought, so I just kind of sat there and didn't really do anything and just said, "Yeah, I play guitar." And then at the end of it, she said, "Can you come back? I want you to audition for this film." So I auditioned, went through all the process, and then I got the film. Ended up nearly failing my degree because I just sort of did the film, got an agent, and then didn't go back in. Basically, I didn't do any of the written work, and I just kind of nearly threw my life away. But I got away with it because they gave me a third in the end, so I just passed.
That's a good slacker pass there. So I'm picking up something here. So for the Mike Leigh film, you just smoked a cigarette and didn't do anything. And for this film, you just sat and said, "I play guitar," and got the role.
Do you know what? I'd love that trend to be consistent, but it isn't. Like, nothing. It's not at all. It's not. That's two instances. But in terms of how involved they were, not really. They weren't really that involved. I think I met Manny once. Am I allowed to swear on this?
Yes.
All right. So we were doing, in the film, we play this song. So we all had to learn how to play the song. So we did weeks and weeks of rehearsals. It was getting to a place where it sounded okay. It wasn't great, but it sounded like a song. And anyway, we heard this footsteps coming up the stairs. Anyway, Manny appears at the door and he just goes, "All right, lads, can you keep it down? I'm trying to have a wank next door." So we're all like, "Oh my God, it's Manny." And so he goes, "All right, play us a tune, lads, play us a tune." So instantly my hands start sweating. So I'm like, "Oh my God, we're going to have to play this tune." We played it, like easily the worst we've ever played that song. Just completely out of time. My hands are shaking. And you can see that he was completely overwhelmed and probably a little bit nervous that we were about to make this film. So he just went, "Yeah, it's not bad, that, lads. I'll see you in a bit anyway. I've got to get off." And then just left. And that was the last that we saw of him. So they knew about it. I think because the film was more of a love letter to them, and it was about a group of friends that loved the Stone Roses and would run through fire just to get there. The involvement on their part kind of wasn't necessary. So,
wow, yeah, I remember seeing that. One of the castings, or just seeing it sort of out there that they were making a Spike Island film. I was like, I would sell my liver to be in that film.
Yeah,
I also love Manny as well.
Were you a fan at the time? Did you try and get over there for the gig?
Yeah, but I wasn't old enough, kind of, and I was at an all boys boarding school over in Drax in North Yorkshire, and there was sort of people were trying to get over to Spike Island, which for those of you who don't know is like some weird like area of mud by the Mersey. I think it was really dangerous. They hadn't all the health and safety was like everyone could have died. It was absolutely nuts. They just sort of took over this weird sort of like, I don't know, sewer plant next to a river, and 250,000 people went.
Yeah, I mean, it's called an island, but it's basically just, well, it is an island technically. It's just a landmass surrounded by water that is a power plant. There's like nothing else. It's the most random place to have a gig.
Yeah. Also, I think technically that's an oxbow lake, but I don't want to get into that too much. I don't sound like Alan Partridge. I think that's an oxbow lake. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we're edging closer to talking about Masters of the Air, just so you know. But I got to ask about Dunkirk as well.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming, having seen the visuals, was a bit like trying to orchestrate a ballet with thousands of people.
Yeah. on a jetty that they'd built on the beach of Dunkirk. They're like stretched out into the sea.
I didn't know it was actually on location, like proper.
We were on the beaches of Dunkirk. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was just insane, and just seeing all the extras there. And I mean, we were there. It just felt like it just really didn't take much imagination. And especially when, so I got the call for that, and I was like, so I went through the whole process, got the call much later after the process. So I assumed I wasn't going to be a part of it. Got the call and said, Chris would love to offer you a part in Dunkirk. So I said, okay, what's the part? Like, what is it? And they went, well, we can't really tell you anything until you get there. So I was like, okay, where is it? Is it speaking character? Like, what's the part? And they went, well, it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks out there. So, you know, we're gauging we're gauging it on that. So I get to Dunkirk, I fly to Dunkirk, I get there, I'm at my hotel, a motorcycle courier pulls out this envelope, hands me the sides. It's like a self-destructing envelope. And I run upstairs.
Damien Hirst one, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you're playing Lieutenant Jeffries. So I ran upstairs, I was like, Lieutenant Jeffries, flicking through the page, I'm like, where is he? Where is Lieutenant Jeffries? And it transpired that it was just this one little moment with Kenneth Branagh, which amazing, big fan of Kenneth. So I was like all into it. The week, sort of Monday, in full costume on the beaches, don't get used that day. Tuesday, same thing again. Come to Wednesday, we're all just playing cards, using matches, playing poker. And the whole week transpires like this, where it's 12 hours on the beaches. And then on Friday, at like the 11th hour, the last hour of filming, I get marched down onto set. It's like, now it's time to go. Chris says, hi, Adam. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. Okay, this is how the scene's going to go. Basically, the plane's going to fly over. It's going to drop a payload. The hospital ship that people are evacuating from is going to blow up. Kenneth's going to say his line, and you say your line, and then that's the scene. Should we just go for it? And I thought, yeah, okay. Action. An actual plane flies over. I'm like, the fuck? This ship blows up with more pyrotechnics than I've ever seen. And then you've got like 60 stuntmen just diving 50 foot into the sea. And because this explosion's that big, so I've got this hat on, my reaction is, wow! So Kenneth goes, cut the ship loose. And I'm like, so I say my line, and then it's like, done, we've got it. And that was it.
Wow.
So, but when you watch the cut of the film, it's like that moment in there for me is like the quickest frame in cinema history. And it is absolutely because he couldn't use the first half of the take, where I'm just...
I say.
Yeah. Wow.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. So that was my Dunkirk experience.
This is Christopher Nolan, right?
Yeah, Christopher Nolan, yeah.
Was he wearing that waistcoat?
Yeah, I think he had the trench coat on, like the
okay.
woolen.
Right.
And he has this monitor that's like 20 years old. Like this tiny little portable monitor that he has. It's a bit like a baby monitor type thing.
Yeah, I think it might be. Yeah, because when we did The Dark Knight, he had this like waistcoat on that I swear had chalk dust on. Like he was doing this, and then he was just going to teach physics in a middle school in the 80s and chalking on the board. I swear it had chalk dust all over it.
Maybe he'd been rock climbing in the day, or
yes, exactly. Oh, yeah, with that little pack that you have with it.
Yeah, the little.
Doug knows about rock climbing, don't you, Dougie? You're a rock climber.
That's right. I think you were talking about a chalk bag.
Oh, thank you.
Which
Is that a
would
chalk bag?
explain why it's covered in chalk. Yeah.
Yeah, because of his chalk in his bag.
Yeah.
All right, one last facetious tendril of conversation, and then I'll get on to Masters of the Air. So you're in a film called Kill Team.
Oh yeah.
Did you spend much time with? Doug's gonna start laughing now.
Let me have a look. I'll know his face. Was he on the Kill Team?
Yeah, if you don't remember him, then you don't remember him. Just put it that way. You didn't hang out with him if you don't remember him.
Oh, was he in the Kill Team?
Apparently so. He's on the IMDb. I swiped right on it.
I don't think our worlds collided.
Okay, good. So,
if they had, you would have known about it.
You would have known. He was in he was kind of in Band of Brothers. I'm not entirely sure what happened, other than he had a personality that didn't fit in with the rest of everybody. And we're talking
the
hundreds of
unity
people,
and camaraderie.
hundreds of people who managed to not be that way. Despite being young and having egos and all the rest of it, he managed to be a certain way that rubbed certain people. There's only so much I can say here up the wrong way. Certain people who I'm not going to throw under the bus, but let's call them Nick Aaron, who played Popeye, and who's the other fella, the super famous fella now, the Scouser.
Oh, Stephen Graham.
Yes,
Yeah.
Stephen Graham. So Stephen Graham and Nick Aaron took umbrage to.
I think we all did, but silently.
Silently, but they managed to. I'm not going to say it exactly. They managed to soil his boots for him at one point.
I can use my imagination on that one.
Yes, indeed, which apparently is good for breaking down hard leather. But yeah, he said one or two things too much, and they took umbrage completely. Leighton may end up editing that bit out, but I had to tell you anyway. Right, let's get on with Masters of the Air, because we've got Matt Mabe here, and he's looking at me like I'm in a test tube. So tell us about the man you played in Masters of the Air.
Well, you know what? Actually, Matt could probably fill you in a lot more on this, because you've got the 100th Bomb Group Foundation website, and there's so much information about the characters. But when I first got cast, I don't think no one had really updated DeMarco's page. So there was some information in the book where Cleven describes DeMarco as being one of the best pilots they ever flew with. And then there's some pictures of DeMarco just looking really cool in some sunglasses. And then there's an excerpt that he wrote about when he first flew that said that he didn't really feel fear because he didn't really have the time to process it. So they're the three bits of information that I kind of had to go off, is that he was stylish, he was very competent, and those two things really. So the rest of it was just trusting the script and just kind of reading the script and finding those moments and being like, okay, well, and using those tiny bits of details that I had to inform the decisions that I was making really. And then as we were in the prisoner of war camp and we were finishing filming, I went back on the Foundation website, and there's so much more information on there now, and there's so many more pictures, and there's pictures of him in the Stalag Luft, and there's letters that he wrote home, which might have been on there earlier, but I just haven't checked. So unfortunately it was kind of uninformed, and I was just hoping that I was on the right track with it.
Oh, well, we'll bring you in there, Matt. Tell us about DeMarco.
No, you hit the nail on the head. And I hate that we didn't have some of that info earlier. It was one of those things where DeMarco is one of these lost guys where, like, over the years, like, no one knew what happened to him. No one could find his family. And, one day I was like, we got to find DeMarco's family. So I think I mentioned to you, I found his son, John, who's just a phenomenal guy. And you meet so many family members of veterans who will say, like, I wish I'd asked my dad about this stuff. But in John's case, he did. Before his dad passed, DeMarco told him everything. So all of what you've seen now came from them. But just a neat guy. I mean, it's one of those classic American stories. He was the son of Italian immigrants. His dad was a suit maker, probably where he got that stylish sense from. But he was one of these guys that enlisted before the war in 1940. He may have been short stature, but like a very headstrong, confident, smart guy. Passed the pilot exams and joined up and was part of the original cadre of the 100th. And one of my favorite stories about DeMarco as a leader is, and you think about these guys being 20 years old being a leader, it's a tough thing. But Francis Harper, who was on his crew, was Native American from Alaska. So these guys are literally from like all parts of the country. While they're in training here in the States, they get a week off and everybody can go home. But in Harper's case, like, how are you going to go to Alaska and come back within a week? So DeMarco is like, hey, you want to come home with me? Like, my family's your family. Come home for a week. So just a phenomenal guy, like brought Harper home, and Harper went and actually like spoke at his sister's school. But just a phenomenal guy, and who became a beloved member of the 100th. And, flying with Cleven, developed a lifelong bond with Cleven, and they stayed in touch. They stayed in touch ever since after the war. I have a funny DeMarco story I can tell you later in this if you like.
No, crack on and tell it now.
Yeah,
Oh, let me pick you up on one point as
Right.
well. Let me
please
pick
tell
you up
us.
on just one point, and that's you mentioned that he joined up before the war in 1940. We were scrapping it out from 1939.
Yeah.
Just whatever you want.
Yeah, thanks for saying that, Matt.
Rally to your cause.
Crack on with the story.
Yeah, I told Adam one of these, but there's one I don't know if he's seen, but it was funny. He was, when they were shot down, he was in Stalag Luft 3. DeMarco was saying, you know, early in the war when you could still get packages from home and actually the Germans wouldn't take everything from it. One of the guys in the POW camp that he was friends with got a box that had cans of tomato paste. And the guy's like, tomato paste? What the heck am I going to do with this? Why would my dad send me tomato paste? And so he starts handing them out. Hey, DeMarco, do you want one? Sure. And DeMarco said one of the other guys quickly got a can opener and opened it and was like, holy crap, there's no tomato paste in here. Everyone's filled with whiskey. And as soon as the guy hears that, he's like, oh, let me get those back. Penny, let me get that back.
Sorry, I already made pasta with mine.
But it was a good one. And I think one of the others I enjoyed, as I mentioned, DeMarco is a slightly shorter guy. But in December of 43, before things got really bad at Stalag Luft 3, the Germans brought in like giant beer kegs for Christmas for the guys. And it was probably the most watered down beer you've ever had, but like giant kegs. And so, of course, DeMarco said the guys like polished it off in like 5 minutes. And just, you know, at that time, everybody's throwing around crazy ideas of escaping. And on like moments notice, DeMarco and these guys, and I'm sure Cleven was there too, they were in the same part of the camp. They're like, Benny decides, hey, I could probably get in that beer barrel. The Germans are told us to clean up. They're gonna like take everything out in a wagon. So with probably not a lot of great like thought down the road of what the next plan is, they take one of the lids off. Benny gets in the beer barrel and they set it over with the trash, thinking like, all right, so long, Benny. And so the Germans start loading them up in a wagon and immediately realize, like, why the hell is this one beer barrel so heavy? Another German just cocks his gun and points it at it, and Benny, the gig is up. But
worth a shot.
a quick devised escape plan. But just like a really fascinating guy that is you know, like you never hear an ill word spoken of DeMarco. Everybody liked him, and I think Adam, like, I wish you had more to go on at that time. I wish we had what we have now, but like you nailed it in terms of DeMarco's confidence. Just even like the one scene where you interact with Cleven when you arrive at the base, like that was DeMarco's confidence right there.
Thank you. That means a lot.
That's because Adam knew he was better looking than him. That's why. How much of I'll ask you this, Adam, because we actually had a beer, me and Matt, over this as well. How much of a resource was there for you to be able to try and find, not just you, obviously, because I know there wasn't a lot about DeMarco available for the guys. Was there a resource that they could be like, so can we try and reach out to the families? Can we?
I remember I have a weird relationship with that kind of thing. Like I don't really know in the beginning stages if it's who's it helping. I'm not too sure. You know, reaching out to the families and making it personal, because I don't know. That makes it real, and then the pressure of it feels quite overwhelming, I think. So I never reached out. There wasn't really an avenue to do that necessarily. I know that John Orloff was like an encyclopedia on all of these guys, and at any point you could catch him, he would tell you the stories and he would go into detail about them. So there wasn't really a great deal, and there wasn't really a system in place there. I just think they wanted us to just trust the scripts, and then probably more specifically the help that we got was on the dialect work. So the two amazing dialect coaches, Brett and Helen, they would have like a whole profile on where specifically this guy's from, down to like the area of that town, and how maybe the Italian influence would change it slightly to bring it a little bit more towards New York, but it would still be specifically Chicago. And yes, that was really useful.
And specific to the time as well. Sorry to interrupt you, because I can never pronounce Barry Keegan's name. But
but he copped some flack online for not having a very good accent. And I've met somebody from that area who was like, who was that guy? Because his accent's absolutely perfect. And I was like, I knew it. I know he's such a brilliant actor. He's not going to cock that up.
Yeah.
It's specific to that area and of that time. That's an absolutely perfect accent that guy's doing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think that actually helps with using British actors because we don't have that. It kind of is always going to lean towards more of a transatlantic sound.
Yeah.
Which feels a bit more period appropriate.
Yeah, I've spoken about that before. I think Brits, unless they're embedded in Los Angeles or whatever for a while, struggle to do a contemporary sounding American accent. I mean, I, Doug can all put on the American accent now, but we don't sound like Matt.
No.
That's way more tricky to do.
Who was I talking to now? There was somebody asked me why is it that they filmed Masters here and why did they use so many British actors? And I assume it's the same with Band of Brothers, so I'd be interested to hear your take on this.
Yeah,
it's been passed down to me from the casting that they hired so many British actors because we're a little bit uglier. So that, like, if you hired 100 American actors, they've all got amazing dental work, they all look amazing, and it's like you're after period appropriate people. So there's much more interesting looking characters and kind of funky looking people in England than there are American actors. That's what I was told.
I don't know about
that. Right, so you can imagine the pre-production. Right, we're looking for a nation of mingers.
Yeah,
all mingers with bad teeth. That will be England then. Okay,
perfect.
Yeah. I think there's probably an element of truth in that. I think you hit the nail on the head when I think the accent that you put on sounds more period appropriate as well with Brits as well.
Yeah, should we stick with the first one? I think.
Yeah, let's stick with the first one. And not that you're a bunch of mingers. Although then they wheel Austin Butler in and just prove the point completely. Yeah. It's for the listeners, for the millions, for the masses. Talk us through the episodes that you are featured in and what happens with DeMarco in those episodes. And then I'll get more specific.
Yeah. So he's, like Matt was saying, he's a core member of the original group. He has a dog, which is nice. He has a husky called Meatball. So he's under the supervision of Cleven, but DeMarco's a captain, so he's very much got his own crew. So yeah, he's on all of those missions from the very beginning that runs right through. And then in episode 4, him and Cleven get shot down and then are presumed dead for 2 episodes. And then we reappear in the Stalag Luft, which was amazing to film because it felt like we were very much making 2 different shows. So it felt like you made 2 films in one because
it looked that way too. Even the look of it.
And even like we all dropped a little bit of weight for the Stalag Luft, so it very much felt like it had its own little preparation before that as well, which was cool. And then we had all these prosthetics that hollowed out our eyes and some bits of makeup to make us look a little bit more gaunt.
Oh, we just got absolutely wasted during the Bastogne scenes, didn't we, Doug? That was just a hangover.
Yeah.
By
then, that's when they made us start running in the morning again. Was about that time, wasn't it? About episode 6, 7, when they said you're all starting to get a bit fat. So we had to start running in the morning. We'll get on set and before whatever our call time was and have to kind of run up and down and do this. Yeah.
Where was all of the, was it all filmed in the UK, Band of Brothers?
All except the last episode, that was filmed in Switzerland, yeah.
Wow, I mean, all those like fight scenes and running through the well, not jungle, but like the forest, it just looks so European.
Yeah, the forest stuff was indoors, wasn't it? Bastogne was shot in a warehouse.
No way.
Yeah, they imported 2,000-3,000 trees from Norway. You'd walk into the warehouse and it would be like 10 feet of earth, and you have to go up a step ladder to go into the set. And then when you're in it, you can't see the ends of it. It was phenomenal.
Oh my God.
Yeah, wow. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
We just had big screens. like
Yeah,
giant.
I've heard about that. The technology was so much more advanced, and seeing, bits of the Instagram posts that you guys are putting up about it, and you see like real sky, it looks like real sky, and there's planes in the background and stuff. It must have been really interesting to kind of work that way, and really kind of did it really help kind of sink you into the moment, because obviously you're on a gimbal and that's moving and shaking and vibrating. You've got the noise of the engines and everything. I guess did they put, and then the screens, that was total 360, wasn't it? The screen.
Yeah, I mean, it felt a little bit actor proof. Like,
yeah,
it was just, you were in a simulation. If you turn that thing left, that plane moved left, and then the clouds adjusted.
Wow, that was astonishing.
I think they used as a video games company called Epic Games, and they've got like and I think they were the designers for the software that we were using. So anything that they wanted live in the shot, they could simulate that on the day. I think they could just put the numbers in and then put that on the screen. It was incredible.
Was there like a playback thing that would start before you're, with the screens, and then okay. Yeah.
And it was really useful for making sure that we were all in the same formations as well. So they could like drop you in to any formation. If you were in a plane, they mapped out the whole formations of those planes on every mission. Yeah. So that you would be completely in formation. It was incredible. And then you've got these big wind machines that are blowing through if the windows are open. It was so fun. I just wish I'd got to do more of the plane stuff, like when they're shooting the guns and people are flying across, and it's incredible. As a fan of, Band of Brothers in the Pacific, just being a fan of this, it's kind of jarring every time I popped up. I was like, it ruins it for me a little bit. Because
I feel exactly the same way. Yeah. Oh, why are you ruining this with your crap?
The episodes I love the most are like 5 and 6 that I'm not in.
Yeah. Did you what sort of training did you do? Were you given training?
Training? Do you know what? I was really hoping that it would have been. I've read the stories of like your guys' experience. I was really hoping that we'd get something similar to that would be running in the morning, we'd be doing night shifts on watch, but it was none of that. There was like 60 of us in this classroom with Dale Dye behind a COVID mask.
Best place for him.
I remember like a couple of times, like his personality came through. And I thought, God, I bet 20 years ago you were hard work. He's definitely softened. I think he's definitely softened. See, the training was more, these guys are gentlemen. They're of an officer class, so there's quite an intellectual demand on them. So there was a lot of classwork stuff. There was a lot of going through the processes. Academically, really, it wasn't. There wasn't a lot of physical exertion. It was just trying to retain all of the information, nerd stuff.
Nerdy stuff. Yeah. Was there? This sounds like a stupid question. I'm looking at this question, thinking, what do you mean by that? All right, so is there an element of the, because you mentioned like 10, 20 years ago, that Dale Dye was more of a badass. Is there an element, obviously not with, if you were that age then, would you like a show to have been filmed 15, 20 years ago when more of the vets were alive, when there was more? Because it like now, it's because there's so few left, you're sort of having to then post the show, go to Matt Mabe over there and go like, what was this like? What was that like? Can I reach out to this guy? The 100th Bomb Group's going to be an amazing resource for the years to come. But is there an element that because when we filmed Band, the guys were all there. They were on set. They were alive. They were on set and they were part of it and they were taking over and it was crazy. Was there an element that would that have been a cool thing to do with these guys as well? I bet it would. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I remember from Band of Brothers in the Pacific, the one thing that really hits you harder than anything that's happening on screen is those interviews at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, when you link up in your head who's who, it floors me every time.
Yeah.
That's it's because it's taken so long for the technology to get there and because of the demands that the show has, that I feel like that is a real shame that we weren't afforded that.
But in a way, I'm kind of glad that they had waited, because the technology, when you're doing airplane stuff, is so important for it to look realistic. Otherwise, it just doesn't, you know, and then everyone would have just kind of pulled it apart, and, you know, it wouldn't have, you know what I mean? So I think it kind of, happened the way it did. And it is a shame you haven't got a chance to meet, you know, too many veterans. There's still a few out there, but just even knowing that you're playing real vets, right? I mean, it's just something you carry with you. Have you still got your dog tags and stuff? Did you take anything from
all
set?
All of it.
Yeah,
I've got bullets that we stole, and then me and Fionn O'Shea went and got them engraved with our character names, and then gave each other one. I've got dog tags, bullets. What else have I got? Yeah, a watch, loads of stuff.
Yeah.
He gets dressed up in it and goes down the pub on a Saturday night to get recognised, don't you?
I do in my local village, where no one has Apple TV. I just walk around with
a sling of bullets over his shoulder, flight jacket, sunglasses.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I've been recognised again. Oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, I mean, it's over now, but we've still got the documentary to come out. Is that right, or has that come out, Matt?
It's out, yeah. It's some of the interviews that they did do got featured in the documentary.
Wow.
There's some that it's definitely it's a really well done piece. But like going back to like the 90s, they have Rosie Rosenthal, but they literally span from like 97 to there's ones that they did about a year ago of two of our guys. So two of our guys now are 102 years old, and they're incredible. They're like sharp as a tack. But it's funny, Adam, like one of my favorite stories from one of my favorite vets, a guy named Bob Wolf, who's in this documentary. You'll see Bob's 102, lives out in California. And so like Bob will like FaceTime me, and he was telling me like he on his own set up Apple TV, which you have 20-year-olds that can't figure out how to set up Apple TV. But
I can't say.
you guys have like really been fascinated with watching it. So it's I actually wondered, like, are these guys gonna want to watch this series? Is it too personal to them? And the majority of them have. They've watched it, and they've watched it. You know, they've reserved judgment until they've seen the whole thing, and they've been really impressed. One of Bob had said, you know, it was the closest thing he's ever seen to like, getting back in the cockpit. So it's disappointing. You know, I wish you guys could have connected with some of these guys, and COVID obviously thwarted some of that, but certainly know that these guys have been impressed, and you know, their families as well are really appreciative of what you guys have done to honor their legacy.
Amazing.
Matt,
that's like
you've kept it alive, Adam. You know, all the cast. You know, there's something that as you go through life, I find myself more proud of it. You know, the older you get, and you know, I hold those memories very dear, and yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that thought occurred to me last week. In that it was kind of a morbid thought, really. It was like, you know, if anything happens and I die, we've got that forever now, and like we've managed to be a part of something that will go forward and will be taught in history, and it allows that history and those personal stories to carry on. I'm overwhelmingly proud of what we achieved and just being a part of it. And I had a picture of Band of Brothers on my wall for 10 years.
Which one? Which picture is it? It's all standing there.
It's just of you, really. It's you, and there's one of you in Renford Rejects, and then.
Listen, mate, I'll send you my OnlyFans site as well.
Don't encourage you, madam. Please.
When the Belgian town, I think, is liberated.
Yes.
I think I'm right in saying that. And you've got 6 of them round the table. You've got Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, I think Tom Hardy's there, and they're all just smoking cigarettes and drinking. And it's only one quick shot in the actually. So I screen grabbed it, that image, grabbed it, printed it off. It was on my wall for ages. Now I thought until 2 years ago that Sam Rockwell was in Band of Brothers. And so I'd always said this story and been like, you know, James McAvoy, Sam Rockwell, like nobody knew who they were. And only last year someone corrected me. I was like, that's Rick Gomez.
Rick Gomez, yeah. I knew you were going with that.
But yes, just like it's been such a journey for me. And when this came through, I've done quite a lot of war stuff before. And on every one of them, I've been like, is this going to be like my Band of Brothers? Like, is this going to be the one? So then actually being able to do the one was, yeah, it's something that I will never forget. 100%.
Does anyone think, is they going to do, Matt, this is a real question for you. Is there another story? Do you reckon there could be another one, like the Navy perhaps, or something? I don't know.
It all depends on the literature, Dougie, because they need the books, don't they? Like there was the book Band of Brothers, and then there's a couple of books that the Pacific was drawn from. And then Don Miller's book is the basis of Masters of the Air. So I guess it just depends on whether people get inspired by. But when Ambrose wrote Band of Brothers, he wanted it for, a sort of grunt's eye view, and that was new. Do you know what I mean? It was new to have just the guys on the grounds, just stories. Not before that it was all these big sweeping battles, and it was all about the generals, and so I don't know, Dougie. It's a good question. I'm assuming because of the success of Band of Brothers and Don Miller's book now, and that you're going to get historians, probably younger historians, trying to do the same thing. Dig out sort of put people together and give it a more sort of filmic feel to their book. The problem being, of course, is there aren't many vets left. So it's a second, third hand account now, because you're going to get it from families, what they've learned and that kind of thing. But I mean, it's clearly how people want to digest their history now. They don't want to, I mean, I took history A-level and all the rest. I was a history nut, but books on World War II were pretty boring in a way. Do you know what I mean? It's all sweeping stuff and tanks and all the rest of it. Well, Ambrose's genius was to think, I'm just going to tell it from the guy's point of view. If there is, if there is more material like that, because you need so much, do you know what I mean, to be able to make a show, and then you're just bolting stuff on as well. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Matt, is there a story that?
It's been a popular question everybody's asked, and I think I'm biased on the air war aspect. There's like so many sub stories to tell from like pilots and you just people stationed in England during the war. But yeah, honestly, I think the biggest challenge will be when Band of Brothers came out. There wasn't a lot of competition on TV back then, and the game's changed now. So I think all of us kind of realize like this might be a flash in the pan, one time kind of thing with this last the third series from Hanks and Spielberg, because it's gotten so hard with just the competition on TV, but I mean, Adam saw firsthand, like the amount of money that it went into this production. I mean, it was just staggering to, have that level of detail. Cause I don't think these guys would ever do it again if they couldn't commit to that authenticity and detail. And unfortunately to do that, it's very expensive. So we can hope, but we never know.
Yeah. Have you read the book, The Devil's Brigade?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make I mean, they'd never do it, but it's a fascinating story. It's it's at the end of the war, a lot of the SS soldiers didn't go back to Germany because they didn't want to go back. So they went and they joined the French Foreign Legion, and they fought in the Indochina Wars and ended up fighting in Vietnam. And they were at Dien Bien Phu, and it would be, I mean, obviously this is going to be hard to cheer for, but this is a fascinating story. But like Matt says, there's all these incredible sub stories. That would make a fascinating show, but obviously you'd be on very dodgy moral ground, so you couldn't do it. But
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting.
What's it called?
It's the Devil's Brigade, is that right, Matt? Is that what it's called?
I think so. That's right.
Yeah, it sort of there was a whole sub thing where like it became like a contraband trade during, I think, the first Iraq War. Soldiers were passing it back and forth to, like, they were fascinated by this story because I think certain bits of it went out of like print and all sorts of stuff. It's really fascinating.
Oh wow, I'll check that out.
But yeah, because even to this day, the French Foreign Legion's marching songs are all in German. They're all German, sort of old SS marching songs. Because it's really fascinating stuff.
I was just gonna say, and Adam probably saw, like, there were so many extras and volunteers that came out to want to be a part of the production. So I think that in itself is a testament to the fact that, like, especially in the UK, and I know here in America too, there's so many people that really appreciate this history and want to see it keep going. So,
well, Leighton, our producer, is one of them. He was knocking on the door every day. Can I get down to Masters of the Air? I'll do literally anything. It's true, isn't it, Leighton? We've had you for 45, 50 minutes. And so thank you very much for coming on, by the way, Adam. It's been great.
No, thank you for having me on.
We subtitle our podcast The Nearly Men, for reasons that you can probably guess. But we always ask this of all my prey. Do you have a nearly story? So something that you nearly were. So very true, says Leighton. Yes, he was trying to get on it all the time. Something that you nearly were. I mean, I don't know what your degree was in. Were you nearly a philosophy teacher? Did you nearly get cast as James Bond? Just something that one always rankles with actors. Like,
Yeah.
one time I was this close to being whoever.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like, how do you know that? You don't really know that. You might have a recall, and then in your head you go like, yeah, 1 of 2, and it's like, where are you though? Are you 1 of 10? How do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
There's like the amount of times I've like got close to something. It kind of happens. It like not every week. That sounds incredibly arrogant, but it happens like quite a lot where you think, God, I could have got that one. Or I remember auditioning for Spider-Man when Tom Holland got it. But that's not a nearly story because it didn't progress any further than the first take. Is there anything in particular that I've not really? I'll deviate from acting, and I so very nearly just became a full-time painter and decorator, and still kind of roll people's ceilings on the odd occasion. So that's a kind of one of those moments where it's like I look at, I could quite easily have gone in to do that and made a career out of that, but in acting terms, I'm not sure. I try not to think about it.
We had Josh Bolt on
for the head, for the mental health and the confidence.
Yeah, exactly. I asked Josh Bolt this question, and he was like, "Oh, there was this one time, and it was Stranger Things, and it was like Winona Ryder's son that Charlie Heaton got." And he was like, "I was between me and him, and I really wanted it." And I was like, "I hate to tell you this, man, but that audition, I did that audition."
Yeah.
I read the lines in, and I literally was like, "This kid is freaking brilliant." It was a self-tape in a studio, and I was the guy reading the lines for him, and he absolutely crushed it.
Yeah, so he was not even close.
I don't want to say that. You could say that. I don't want to say that. So yeah, before we round things off, so what's next for you, man?
Nothing really at the minute. Just waiting eagerly for the phone to ring, as you know. I do some other bits with the police. I do things with the police where I play criminals with a long, extensive story and help train detectives in information gathering. So I do that quite a lot. So I'm doing that next week. Yeah, it's a really cool, like little side hustle that's, it's still connected in some way to the other thing. But yeah, it's fun.
Also, there's a double jeopardy there where you could then commit the crime and the police go, "Nah, that's not him. That was the guy that came in." You know what I mean?
No, some of the crimes are really bad.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Some of them. That's really cool. Man.
Just living.
Yeah, good man.
Yeah, good boy. Yeah. There is definitely, Dougie will back me up on this as well. There will be a lag after something like Masters of the Air before things pick up again for you guys, because there's so many of you that have come out of it at the same time.
Yeah.
And it takes a while and of course you've been out of the game for like a year, do you know what I mean? Filming or been out, it takes a while to get rolling again. So, and a lot, because of the success of the show, a lot of casting directors go, "Oh, well, Master of the Air. Do you know what I mean? Like they get a little bit snowblind.
They get a bit of overload. Like
they do, yeah.
When I went,
another guy from Master,
I went to America a bit late, and they were like,
"It takes a while."
Yeah, so yeah, just keep the faith. You're going to do great.
It's one of those really. I think it's easy to look back on who was in Band of Brothers and then kind of see where they are now. And it created this false narrative, I think, that a lot of the boys on our show, especially the younger boys, were buying into quite heavily.
Right.
And they all did Band of Brothers and they all shot to superstardom. And you kind of feel like actually those people were on their way anyway. Band of Brothers just provided the first platform. So it's just been a lot of expectation management on my part. Like I've always kind of been like that, where it's I believe it until I'm there and I see it. So Masters of the Air was great. It will, you know, it'll have a life, hopefully forever, for as long as Band of Brothers has. But there's no expectation on it for any kind of future success, because you just setting yourself up for failure there, I think.
Yeah,
So
it's a really healthy way to look at it, Adam.
It is.
Your career is going to be very long, and life is long, and I think that's a really, really healthy way of looking at it. Yeah.
It is, and also casting directors don't like to be told what to do. Do you know what I mean? They don't like. There's a huge big show. I think they're going to be like, well, yeah, all right, he was in Master of the Air. I don't want. Do you know what I mean? It takes a while for it to level back out again.
Yeah.
And it's also that thing of like, well, he was in Master. Which one? They were all the same.
Yeah.
It was like Callum and Austin in the forefront, and then everyone else was doing their business kind of next to them. So at least I had the dog. At least I've got that going for me.
Yeah.
The one with the
dog rolls.
Yeah.
That was dog rolls.
Oh, just a quick story before we leave.
Yes,
I was in my local pub the other day, and this lovely fella, John, I talk to him all the time, come up to me and he went, so, been watching Masters of the Air? And I was like, oh yeah. He went, loving it, really loving it. And I was like, amazing. I was like, where are you up to? He went, episode 4. I was like, okay. And then he turned around and went, still waiting for you to make an appearance, but we're loving it. I was like, I'm in it. I'm in those 4 episodes quite heavily. And he was like, really? Which one are you? I was like, I'm the one with the dog. And he was like, you're American in it. I just never. I thought you were like an RAF officer or something. I never.
Those stories will haunt you for the rest of your life. The amount of times you're gonna have that conversation with someone who keeps going, really?
Yeah.
Really?
It happens all the time with people that love Happy Valley, right? Because that had like a big resurgence. People go like, oh my God, Happy Valley is my favorite show ever. And I'm like, cool. And they're like, were you in it? And I was like, yeah. I'd get my throat slit in the first series. Like, oh my God. Like, no one can seem to put 2 and 2 together from anything that I've been in teams, which might be a compliment, I hope.
I think it is.
It definitely is. It definitely is. All right, buddy. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks to you. Thanks again to Matt Mabe, live from Snake and Lizard in Vienna.
Come on out.
Drinking his stout. Thanks, Dougie. Thanks to everybody for listening. And we'll call it a day. Thanks to our Patreons for subscribing. And we are going to record again tomorrow, I believe. So you're going to get 2 loaded up episodes. We've got another member of Masters of the Air coming on tomorrow, who hopefully is better than Adam, who, let's face it, is a bit of a drag. Thank you very much, and we will see
Who have you got on tomorrow?
Who have we got on tomorrow, Leighton? We have to wait now for Leighton to type
Right, I
in.
just interrupted your outro as well. I just realised. Sorry about that.
It's one of the guys who's on road.
Riley Nedlam.
Oh yeah, nice.
You don't know who he is, do you?
Leave him alone, Matt. Leave him alone. Thanks ever so much for coming on, Adam. It's been a really great pleasure. So
thank you very much.
Wish you well, and we'll see you
All right,
again.
guys. Cheers,
All
boys.
right.
Thanks very much. See you next week, guys.
See you,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.
GettysburgMuseumofHistory.com and on the YouTube channel, The History Underground, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.